Navigating the world of data management is like being the captain of a ship, steering safely through uncharted waters to reach your destination and discover the secrets to mastering data management and empower your team to drive innovation and success in this episode. Meet Webb Parmar, Global Head of Data Management at WPP, a data management guru with over 2 decades of experience driving data democratization, literacy, community building, and innovation at WPP, a global powerhouse. He shares his insights into accelerating your team's success and your career. And coming up on this episode, drive data democratization and governance. Bridge the gap between business and technology, business mindset within technical teams, and learning and development in data-focused roles. Webb, I'm really excited to discuss your insights on the challenges found in data. But first, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on data democratization.
Data democratization is very key and imperative in any organization, right? When you think about the amounts of data that organizations sit on, it grows exponentially year on year. And it's, where we were saying 10 or 15 years ago, data is the new oil, dare I say it, it's a valuable commodity, but then it's always underutilized and underleveraged. And when we look at the lens of all the privacy and the governance and the compliance regulations that have emerged over the last 10 years, if you can't govern, if you don't know what data you have, if you don't know where it is, if you don't have the ownership framework and the accountability framework around it, you can't therefore govern it. You can't therefore make sure it's compliant. So it's important that you do that. And then, okay, that's great. Okay, I now know what data I have. I now know who owns it, and I've got the right kind of control frameworks in and around it. But then understand what it is and then start to make valuable use out of it. And that use is no good if you're just keeping it contained within pockets of your organization, right? As well, it's key to then start to advocate what you have in a safe and secure way. You're not giving this stuff away. Data democratization is merely around, ensuring that you have a digital inventory of all of your data assets, what exists, what is it, how to understand it, who to go to, who are the subject matter experts, who are the data owners around it as well, and then being able to get people to use it and leverage it, right, if it's appropriate to do so. Right, it's a bit like we have the data catalog, and we kind of like to refer to it as like the the Amazon of our data, right, as well. And it's then key because then people start to then use it and then start to understand, well, hey, I'm trying to do this, but I didn't actually know that we actually have this, and then this will be very, very complementary. Or I'm trying to produce or integrate or talk to a third-party vendor about, bringing some data in. And I didn't know that we have this stuff that's already sitting within our organization as well. So it can often start to reduce duplication, but improve efficiency, right? As well, if you don't have that inventory, it's a bit like going to Amazon and then trying to buy a TV, but there's no listings for any TVs, right? You've just got to go and search for it. And it's bananas if we have organizations that are sitting on, huge quantities of data that people can't, discover and understand. So it kind of boils down to those two lenses. It's making sure that you can utilize and leverage your data assets that you have, but then you're also making sure that from a governance and compliance and a privacy point of view, you're then managing that in the right way as well. And it also leads to other benefits too, given that we live in the world of, the cloud, and having things and having data on-prem is seen as more of as a legacy thing. And also with the exponential growth in data, it's now more imperative than ever as we go on that journey towards the cloud. We only manage the data that we really, really need, right? We don't just end up hoarding it, because the trouble is that, I've seen a lot of, instances where you just end up hoarding vast amounts of data, right? And you don't quite know what you've got, and you don't actually know where it is and how to use it. So it's always really, really important to be able to do that, and then actually just, get rid of or archive the things that you don't need and manage that the right way, and only bring to the fore the stuff that's actually going to drive, value, and make sure that that's managed in the right and necessary appropriate way.
Have you heard of Amplitude, the product management analytics tool? In my experience, it really empowers product and data teams to work more independently, with self-serve, for example, using more independently, say, the marketing teams that can use Google Analytics without relying heavily on scarce and costly data science resources. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this.
Like in all of the organizations that I've worked in, right, and just to give you a bit of background, I got into data because, I look at every business or organization that I've been in and I kind of simplify them into two. You kind of have the business and the technology, right? Your technology is your IT and your typical, tech focused functions, and your business is your operations, your HR, your finance and that side. And I come from the operations world, and the way I got into data is I was in operations, right? And in order to optimize and refine what I was doing, I needed access to data, right? I need data to help me, right? I wanted to solve a lot of the problems or some of the challenges and create efficiency. So data was the key to, actually doing that. And then that's what then forced me, because no one was going to do it for me. Technology didn't really quite understand what I needed. So I then took it upon myself to then, okay, let's find the data. Let me try and, use the data, and then let's figure out how we can then use it to understand things proactively rather than reactively, as well. And I think that's, it's an age-old problem, right? You still have the business and you still have technology. The business have a lot of demands that they put towards technology, but without actually knowing what technology, and this is not about it's more than the departments and the people and the tools, but they don't really know how tech can actually service and enable their needs in the right way. But on the flip side, the technology don't really understand the business that well, right? They're just like, well, you tell us what to do, or we'll enable it as well. And then that's where you've kind of got this, you've always got this big gap between the business and technology, right? And then how do you then start to bring that closer? Now, I've worked with a lot of people in the past who I kind of call as unicorns, right? Because they kind of sit in the middle. They can understand business and technology, and then they'll be saying, okay, what are we trying to do? What are our strategic goals and objectives? What are our challenges and our opportunities? Okay, this is what we should be leveraging and how. Here's tools, technologies, his applications, his things that we should develop to then be able to, actually do that. And, I've just found that it's always been very, very difficult, wherever I go. How do you then start to bridge that gap? These unicorns don't, there are hordes of them and they don't exist everywhere. So I think there's a little bit of an opportunity here to actually start to understand, start to use tech, and especially in the modern era of AI, to, again, be more outcome and objective oriented, right? What is the business trying to do? What is the business trying to achieve? What are the challenges, goals, the opportunities, and the shortfalls, and how can tech potentially enable that? Whether that's through data, whether that's through smart solutions and tooling, and whatnot. It's that there's a huge opportunity here to then start to bridge that gap here.
Moving on to the importance of a business mindset, especially in data, can you share your thoughts or strategies that you use to help your teams shift their understanding of the business implications of their work, especially in data?
Someone is asking you to do something, well, why, right? What is it that they're trying to do or solve or realize, right? Keep on asking why. Be that relentless child that, being a father who keeps on asking the why question, and always get it, associated to the business benefit. You've got to, and the amount of times where I've pushed down at my teams or pushed down at people, with demands and requests, to us in the business, especially in the world of telecoms. It happens all the time. We need reporting on this. We need dashboards on that. We need to reconcile. Okay, but why? What are you trying to do? Well, hang on a minute. Okay, through, lots of understanding and conversation. Okay, I get what you're trying to do, but what you're asking of us is the wrong ask, right? We actually need something else to do it. And because they understand their business benefit, they understand their goal or objective, but how they're then, translating that into a demand, it's not actually going to get them there, or there's a better way of actually getting them to that point as well. So it's always key that you then start to, associate that benefit to them as well. And another piece is, I think it's, what folks don't always understand is what that quantification or what that business benefit is. And it's very difficult to do this because there's a bit of a fine art here, right? Because, there's not always going to be a pounds and pence or a dollars and cents line of attribution to what you're doing it, because sometimes it might be efficiency gains, productivity gains. It's not necessarily going to be, okay, you're going to do this piece of work and it's going to save, X amount of pounds or pence, right? So it's always ask yourself, think about it like this. I always have, and I encourage my people to manage what they're doing as if you're your own business, right? If you're a data scientist, imagine you were, Data Scientist Incorporated, right? You are being paid to do a certain job, right? But is the value that you're then delivering back, is that then being offsetting as well? Are you generating more, than you're actually, we're bringing in? And then people find that a little bit hard at first, but break it down into simple examples, right? It's, think of it like an investment, right? If you're going to put, £10 into something and then the return you're only going to get is £2, would you do it? Okay, so why would you do the same over here as well? And I think trying to get people to alter their mindset and their way of thinking around particular things is really, really important, because while some things can have a benefit, it's also understanding the amount of benefit that they have that offsets the amount of input that you're putting in to then realize that benefit, right? So just because it's a great idea doesn't actually mean that it's the right thing to do. And it also helps with planning and prioritization as well, when you look at it from that particular lens.
I 100% agree. And as we wrap up today, I'd love to get your thoughts on learning and development programs in your experience, again, especially in the data space.
It's not about just, getting, here's a catalog of courses, go away and then fill your boots, right? Learning and development should be oriented towards what the business wants to achieve, right? It should also be oriented towards creating particular pathways that allow people to traverse down a particular path, right? What is the objective? What are you trying to be better at? I want to become a data scientist. I want to become more proficient at machine learning. I want to attain X skill, but then creating a pathway that allows people to then go along that journey, rather than just say, hey, here's a bunch of stuff, go away and then pick and choose and post your certificate on LinkedIn later and be proud of it, right, as well. And then just try to pursue, and learning and development is not just about, academic training, right? It's also about how you then learn and develop within your career journey of what you're doing. How are you going to apply and then use those skills and then develop those skills in and around what you're doing as well? So we're trying to make sure that, in the L&D programs that, I've led in the past and currently, it's around making sure that we're creating those pathways, but we're creating those applications of how to use those pathways. And then start to then understand and measure the success. And this is where you've got to do that, using quantitative and qualitative methods, right? So it's very easy to turn around and say that, you've had X amount of learners achieve X amount of skills in particular courses and programs, but also kind of expanding that to, well, what did that enable, right? What did that achieve, right? Because again, learning and development is very hard to kind of, attribute in terms of the business benefit, back to the business. People did this, but then what did it actually enable them to do? Did it enable them to, achieve something for, in a particular piece of work, do something more efficiently, and then just, take those snippets, right? Just take, what we've got to do is just go around, talk to these people, record some of these pieces and then actually start to present it back. So it actually then start to materialize the quantitative, benefits and the KPIs that you have will actually, there's people actually really, really talking about this stuff as well. And again, it goes back to the point earlier around communities, right? When people can then start to learn and lean on each other from one another by sharing experiences, ways of working, that also then helps. So I see that as a kind of combined way of, of how we do, or how learning and development should be progressed in organizations.
I really like that. So where do you think people fall short on this?
Because they just look at it very in a simple way. Okay, we're going to do learning and development. We're just going to we're going to make LinkedIn Learning available, or we're going to make some kind of program available to people, but without, kind of curating or focusing it, right? As well. That's where it often fails, where you just kind of do a little bit of hit and hope as well. Another piece is in around time and investment, right? Everyone is, under the pressures of delivering and doing their day jobs, right? And where you don't actually apportion enough time in their day jobs for learning and development, it's then down to the individual, right? Is the individual going to spend that time, their own time, doing this stuff? And if they don't feel as though it's going to benefit them, then, or they've got other challenges in their lives, then they're not really going to bother. But, you've got to give them that investment of time, as well as the investment into your learning and development programs, to then be able to do that. But also give them but also make sure that they can actually apply it too.
With today's insights, you now have the tools to navigate the data management seas like a skilled captain. And you can follow Vip on LinkedIn to stay up to date with his latest outlooks and thoughts. And if you're ready to dive deeper into the future of data products for organizational success, then watch this interview with Darren Wood, who's the head of data product strategy at ITV. And this episode was brought to you in partnership with our friends at Amplitude. So from me, Ross Webb, until next time, bye for now.